Welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring the life of a man who managed to perfectly surf the incredibly chaotic waves of 20th century American pop culture.
Yeah, a journey that stretches from the coonskin cap craze of the 1950s all the way to the glitzy, celebrity-soaked nights of Palm Springs.
Exactly. We are diving into the life of Mel Haber. We've pulled together excerpts from his Wikipedia biography, and our mission for this deep dive is to extract what I consider the ultimate lesson in adaptability.
And reinvention, really.
Right. We want to figure out how a kid selling peanuts in Brooklyn eventually becomes the ultimate gatekeeper to Hollywood's elite.
To really ground us in where this story begins, I want you to picture the sound of a bustling 1950s New York City streetscape.
Oh, yeah.
Just the horns, the rapid-fire conversations on the sidewalk, the sheer density of commerce. What's fascinating here is Haber's overarching pattern.
Yeah.
When you study his life, you realize he wasn't just a businessman. He was a cultural thermometer. He instinctively knew how to read the room of American culture.
And more importantly, he knew the exact mechanics of pivoting when the temperature changed. So let's look at the environment that forged that instinct.
The Brooklyn roots.
Right, Brooklyn. Haber was born on October 24, 1936. He was the youngest of 4 children, growing up in an apartment overlooking Ocean Parkway in Flatbush.
And just to give you a sense of the cultural pressure cooker he was swimming in, look at his high school.
Erasmus Hall.
Yes. Erasmus Hall churned out a completely wild mix of intense ambition. I mean, you have Barbra Streisand walking those halls.
Bobby Fischer, the chess prodigy.
Right, and crime author Mickey Spillane, all in that same ecosystem. That kind of environment normalizes divergent success.
It really does. It shows a young person that there isn't just one path out of the neighborhood, There are dozens, provided you have the drive.
And Haber certainly had the drive.
Okay, let's unpack this, because his drive was essentially forced upon him by tragedy.
Yeah, that's a crucial point.
Haber's father was a garment district salesman, and he died of a heart attack at just 52 years old.
Leaving Mel as the primary breadwinner at 12 years old.
12 years old. He immediately starts his hustle. He's delivering groceries. He's selling peanuts and beer to the massive crowds at Ebbets Field.
And during his summers, he's working as a busboy up in the Catskills.
Which is where things get really interesting from a business perspective.
Absolutely. The time in the Catskills is the absolute bedrock of his later empire. It's there that Haber developed a crucial operational philosophy he called motion efficiency.
Motion efficiency. It sounds very corporate.
It does, but on the surface, it's just a simple hospitality trick. As a busboy, if you take empty glasses back to the kitchen, you never walk back out to the dining room empty-handed.
Right, you bring a fresh pitcher of water.
Or a new stack of napkins, exactly.
Yeah.
You never make a trip without a purpose.
I mean, it sounds like common sense.
It does, but applying it relentlessly at scale is what separates a busboy from a mogul. Haber internalized this idea of eliminating wasted movement.
Working smart, basically.
Working smart. And decades later, this foundational skill of hyper-efficiency is exactly what allowed him to juggle operating 6 different massive restaurants and venues at the exact same time.
Without the overhead or the logistics just completely crushing him.
Precisely. It became a systemic approach to management.
And that systemic approach kicked in quickly. Haber actually enrolled in the Fashion Institute of Technology in Manhattan in the fall of 1954.
But he doesn't stay long.
No, he drops out just 2 months later. A businessman named Artie Schifrin offers him a job making $85 a week working for a company called Wolfram Industries.
Which, for an 18-year-old in 1954, $85 a week was serious capital. It was definitely enough to justify walking away from formal education.
Oh, for sure. And he walks right into a cultural hurricane.
The Davy Crockett craze.
Yes. In December 1954, ABC airs a television series called Davy Crockett, Indian Fighter, starring Fess Parker.
And Parker wears this highly distinctive coonskin cap on screen.
Almost overnight, that cap sets off an absolute craze. Wolfram Industries instantly pivots their manufacturing to produce coonskin items.
They wanted to feed this multi-million-dollar business bandwagon. We talk about the fad economy today with viral internet products, but the mechanics were the exact same back then.
The demand spikes so violently that the supply chain completely fractures.
That is exactly what happened here. The craze lasted longer than the initial projections, but the raw materials just couldn't keep up.
Right. By May 1955, the demand had driven the wholesale price of raccoon tails from 25 cents each to a staggering $5 a pound.
Which is just insane inflation.
The profit margins instantly vanished. The bubble burst. And suddenly, at age 19, Mel Haber is out of work for the first time in his life.
think about the massive cultural fads you've seen come and go in your own lifetime.
Yeah, there are so many.
Haber's first big lesson in the business world was realizing that cultural manias are incredibly profitable, but highly volatile because of supply inelasticity.
Because when everyone wants the exact same physical object at the same time, the cost of producing that object skyrockets.
Until it cannibalizes the profit. Right. You can ride the wave, but you cannot anchor your ship to it.
That's a great way to put it. So, out of work, Haber tries selling shoes. Then he tries selling stocks.
Neither of which really stick.
Right. But Schifrin eventually calls him back to Wolfram Industries for another pivot.
This is a brilliant pivot, too.
They move away from their original bicycle accessories and the defunct coonskin caps, and they go all in on automotive novelties.
They recognized that the massive post-World War II economic boom had created a completely new demographic with disposable income.
The car-obsessed baby boomer teenagers.
Yes. The teenage demographic essentially lived in their cars during the late 50s and early 60s.
The vehicle wasn't just transportation for them?
No, it was their social hub and their primary canvas for personal identity.
And Wolfram flooded that canvas. Between 1961 and 1968, they produced 750 different novelty items.
750, that is staggering volume.
They tapped into the absolute peak of automotive kitsch. They manufactured hula dolls that gyrated in the rear windows.
Oh, I love those.
Religious statues for the dashboards, self-adhesive pinstriping, and those iconic tiger tails designed to hang out of the gas tank.
And of course, the fuzzy dice for the rearview mirror.
Of course.
What they were actually selling was cheap customization. They provided a generation desperate to stand out with an affordable way to signal their individuality.
Without paying for a custom paint job or expensive engine modifications.
Exactly.
But their biggest hit wasn't even a physical toy. It was a chemical product called amber lens dye.
Right, which is so simple but so clever.
It sold over 1 million units simply because it allowed kids to quickly alter the look of their headlights.
This deep understanding of teen psychology paid off brilliantly. In 1968, Automatic Radio buys Wolfram Industries for $3 million.
And Haber, thanks to his position in the company, pockets 10% of that sale. He walks away with $300,000.
Which was an enormous amount of liquid capital in 1968.
Oh, massive.
But it gave him the illusion of invincibility.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Flush with this massive windfall, Haber decides he has the golden touch.
The classic trap.
He starts a string of absolute disasters. Let me just list these for you. He launches a boiler cleaning business.
Okay.
He opens a front-end wheel alignment franchise.
Right.
He starts a company factoring medical centers,
Right.
which means he was buying up unpaid healthcare invoices at a discount, hoping to collect the full amount later.
A huge leap from fuzzy dice.
He tries an import business, a vacuum forming business specializing in plastic molding, and an automotive chemical manufacturing business.
And how did those go?
Every single one of them bleeds cash. He is forced to shut them all down.
To capture the mood of this era in his life, imagine sitting in a gloomy room with rain streaking down the window.
Yeah, just totally bleak.
This is a brutal textbook midlife crisis. He faces a total financial and ego reckoning.
He has to trade in his sprawling Long Island mansion and his Rolls Royce for a used Fiat and a modestly furnished apartment in Marina del Rey, California.
It is a stunning fall from grace.
True.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is a profoundly humbling lesson regarding domain expertise.
Because success in one area doesn't guarantee success in another.
Exactly. Success in a highly specific, culturally attuned field, like novelty manufacturing, does not automatically translate into success in entirely unrelated, highly technical fields like boiler cleaning.
Or medical debt factoring. I mean, factoring requires deep actuarial risk assessment.
And vacuum forming requires advanced engineering knowledge. Haber assumed that his hustle and capital could bypass his lack of foundational knowledge.
And the market violently corrected that assumption.
Violently.
But Haber's story doesn't end in that Marina del Rey apartment. Let's fast forward to 1975.
The turning point.
Haber's invited by a friend to visit Palm Springs. While he's out in the desert, he stumbles upon a property at 200 Ramon Road called the Ingleside Inn.
And thanks to an absentee owner, the place is practically falling apart at this point.
But the history of this place.
The contrast between the physical decay he saw and the historical weight of the property is just striking.
Tell us about the history.
So the inn was built in 1925 by the widow of Humphrey Burge, the man who manufactured the Pierce Arrow motor car.
Real old money.
Real old money. It was designed as an ultra-luxurious private estate at the foot of the San Jacinto Mountains. 10 years later, a Palm Springs councilwoman named Ruth Hardy bought it.
And she ran it for 30 years as an invitation-only private club.
Right. And when we say invitation only, we really mean it. You couldn't just walk in off the street with cash.
Not at all. Hardy curated a sanctuary for the elite. Her guest book included Howard Hughes, Salvador Dali, Greta Garbo, John Wayne, and Elizabeth Taylor.
It was a shielded environment where the intensely famous could operate without public scrutiny.
But by 1965, Ruth Hardy had died. And by the time Haber sees it in 1975, the stardust was totally gone.
And keep in mind, Haber knows absolutely nothing about operating a resort.
He has never run a hotel in his life.
Yet, driven purely by gut instinct, he makes a spontaneous $300,000 handshake deal to buy the property on April 15th.
A handshake deal.
It is a massive gamble, especially coming off the heels of his previous business failures.
But notice what he does differently this time. He doesn't just buy it and expect it to run itself like he did with the boiler business.
Right. He applies that motion efficiency he learned back in the Catskills.
He shuts the inn down entirely for the summer. He pours $500,000 into a painstaking restoration, which includes completely reviving the property's restaurant, Melvin's.
And when the Ingleside Inn reopens on September 15th, 1975, it isn't just a success.
No, it is an explosive cultural reset for the city.
He essentially commercialized the velvet rope illusion.
I like that phrase.
Haber recognized that a new generation of Hollywood elite still desperately wanted that secluded, exclusive desert sanctuary that Ruth Hardy had pioneered.
So he recreated the feeling of an invitation-only club.
Exactly. But he ran the back-of-house operations with ruthless modern efficiency to maximize profit.
And the star power he attracted proves your point entirely. Melvin's instantly became the absolute magnet for Hollywood heavyweights.
Who was going there?
Oh, everyone. Frank Sinatra and Barbara Marx held their pre-wedding party at Melvin's in July 1976.
Wow, Sinatra. That's the ultimate endorsement in Palm Springs.
That alone signaled to the rest of the entertainment industry that Haber's place was the designated inner sanctum. He hosted Marlon Brando, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Liza Minnelli, Liberace, and even President Gerald Ford.
He had finally found the perfect intersection of his skills. His understanding of what the culture craved, combined with the hospitality logistics he learned in his youth.
The property was eventually named one of the world's premier hotel and dining venues by Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
That is the peak of 1980s validation.
But true to form, Haber wasn't content to just sit still. By the late 1970s, he felt the cultural tide shifting again, and he saw a new wave cresting.
Disco.
In October 1979, he takes a massive swing. He opened Cecil's, a 9,000-square-foot Chinese restaurant and discotheque that cost $1.2 million to build.
A Chinese restaurant combined with a massive disco sounds like an absurd concept on paper.
It really does.
But it perfectly matched the aesthetic excess of the late 70s.
It rivaled Studio 54 in sheer popularity. Cecil's pulled in a bizarrely eclectic crowd. We're talking everyone from Ale Neville to Joan Collins to John Travolta.
Haber was operating on another level now.
It really was. He followed up Cecil's by opening 2 more dining ventures in the early 80s.
Yeah.
He opened Saturdays, which capitalized on the casual dining boom similar to TGI Fridays.
And doubles, right.
Yeah, Doubles, a massive operation inside the famed tennis club. Suddenly, Haber is the second largest employer in all of Palm Springs, managing around 200 people on his payroll.
Managing 200 people across multiple high-volume venues is exactly where motion efficiency makes or breaks you.
Absolutely.
But his real genius here was his exit strategy. Pop culture historians widely mark 1980 as the death of disco across mainstream America.
Right, the disco backlash.
But Haber recognized that Palm Springs operated on a slight cultural lag. He rode the wave while it was still profitable locally, but he didn't let his ego trap him in a dying trend.
So what does he do?
In 1985, he sold Cecil's, Saturdays, and Doubles. He cashed out at the absolute peak of their valuation.
That timing is just incredible. But let's jump forward a decade to 1994, because Haber tries to catch lightning in a bottle one more time, and the results are very different.
The Touche era.
The Touche era. The city of Palm Springs had been aggressively courting him to return to the nightlife scene. So he opens Touche, a $1.3 million Moroccan-themed bar, nightclub, and restaurant.
A massive investment.
Huge. And the opening night is a spectacular return to form. Over 500 people show up. He gets an international television plug from Robin Leach.
But it doesn't last.
No. Within weeks, a troubling operational pattern emerges. On the weekends, Haber is turning hundreds of people away at the door. But midweek, the sprawling venue is completely empty.
Let's shift the atmosphere to a quiet, modern coffee shop to analyze this. This raises an important question. Why did Touche fail when Cecil's was such a dominant force just a decade earlier?
What changed?
It wasn't the venue, and it wasn't the management. Haber realized that the culture had fundamentally shifted underneath him.
The 90s were very different from the 70s.
Exactly. He analyzed the data and discovered that corporate work habits had drastically changed. Furthermore, the media had fostered a much higher level of enlightenment regarding alcohol and substance abuse.
So the era of the 3-martini Tuesday lunch and partying until 2 a.m. on a Wednesday was just over.
Over. The baseline social habits of his demographic had completely evolved. But again, look at how he reacts.
He doesn't double down on a bad bet.
No. Instead of pouring more marketing money into a sinking ship or letting his ego dictate his business strategy, he acknowledges the cultural shift. He cuts his losses and sells Touche in 1996 for $250,000.
And he redirects all his energy back to the Ingleside Inn and Melvin's,
which were insulated from nightclub trends.
It really echoes his experience with the coonskin caps. He knew when the raw materials of the fad, in this case, midweek partying, had dried up.
He knew how to read the room.
He did. But if we stop the story here, we would be missing the profound heart of Mel Haber. Beyond the velvet ropes and the Hollywood excess, there was a deeply committed philanthropist.
The other side of man.
Haber spent more than 25 years intensely involved with the Angel View Crippled Children's Foundation.
Angel View is a fascinating organization. It originally formed in the Coachella Valley to utilize natural hot springs to rehabilitate children suffering from polio.
But then the vaccine came out.
Right, and as the polio vaccine eradicated that specific need, the organization broadened its mission to support children facing a wide spectrum of severe physical challenges.
And Haber applied his relentless energy to this cause. He joined the board in 1983 and became the foundation's president in 1993.
His organizational impact was so profound that when they opened their 17th specialized care home in 2002, they officially named it the Mel Haber House.
That's a huge legacy. And later in his life, in 2014, he joined the board of Operation Safe House.
What do they do?
This organization provides emergency shelter for runaways, abandoned, and trafficked children. As a founding member of the Riverside Anti-Trafficking Task Force, he helped build a system that provided critical assistance to more than 800 vulnerable children every single year.
It reveals a remarkable duality in his character. The man who made millions catering to the indulgences of the rich and famous utilized that exact same operational efficiency to scale a network of care for the most vulnerable members of the community.
He recognized a completely different kind of cultural need, and he engineered a solution.
And it's wonderful that he documented his wild ride along the way.
Yes, the books. In 1996, he wrote a book called Bedtime Stories of the Ingleside Inn. It details the bizarre logistical challenges and hilarious misadventures of running a celebrity sanctuary.
I believe Arnold Schwarzenegger wrote the dedication for that one.
He did, and it sold around 10,000 copies. He followed it up in 2008 by co-authoring Palm Springs a la carte, which really cemented his legacy as the ultimate insider.
So what does this all mean?
When you zoom out and view Mel Haber's life in its entirety, from hustling raccoon tails and dashboard tiger tails to engineering Hollywood hideaways and driving massive anti-trafficking philanthropy, you see a masterclass in reading the room of American culture.
And the city of Palm Springs certainly recognized his impact.
On his 60th birthday, he received a Golden Palm Star on the Palm Springs Walk of Stars, and the city officially designated the Ingleside Inn as a historic site.
For you listening, I think the critical takeaways are structural. Haber's greatest triumphs required 3 pillars: impeccable timing, a relentless work ethic rooted in systemic efficiency, and a profound understanding of consumer psychology.
And his failures.
His catastrophic failures, like the boiler companies and the medical debt factoring, occurred the moment he abandoned domain knowledge and relied purely on capital. Adaptability is incredibly powerful, but only when it is tethered to a deep understanding of the mechanics of the room you are trying to read.
That is the ultimate lesson of his career. As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final, lingering question to ponder on your own.
Let's hear it.
Mel Haber built an absolute empire by reacting to sprawling cultural fads, navigating everything from the post-war auto boom to the disco era. But in today's hyper-fast digital world, where consumer fads are born and die on platforms like TikTok in a matter of weeks instead of years.
It's so much faster now.
It is.
Yeah.
So is it still possible to build a lasting brick-and-mortar legacy purely by catching the cultural wave? Or does surviving the modern fad economy require a completely different definition of motion efficiency?
It's a complex puzzle for anyone building a brand today.
It really is. Thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us. Keep questioning the culture around you, keep adapting, and we'll catch you next time.
Goodbye, everyone.